playing a little bit of catch up. That is what we are doing this week with a brand new Village Vice. He is Zach Blackerby. Where is he? There he is, right there.
Right here.
And he's where he normally is. I'm Brad Law, and I am in Austin, Texas, because baseball's been on the road forever.
Cowboy Brad.
Yeah. Went to Jacksonville Tuesday, went to Atlanta Tuesday night, came to Austin Wednesday, played a game Thursday, got another one Friday, another one Saturday.
Is this your first time in Austin as an SEC trip?
Yep.
Thoughts so far, early impressions?
Not impressed. I put it up there with Baton Rouge as cities I don't care if I ever go back.
Okay.
Don't care about it. It's too it's bigger than I gave it credit for. Okay. And I should have known better. Like with a little bit of research, you figure out how big a place is. And it's the state capital. So
yeah, I mean, I picture Austin being pretty big.
Yeah, I didn't picture it as big as it is.
Okay.
And
I mean, it feels like a big city. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah, like a big city.
Got it.
I've heard more horns honk in Austin than any other city, only second to New York City.
That's interesting.
Like the people are kind of, it's not, now look, Texans, and I love Texans, and I have a number of friends who are Texans. Texans are so proud to be from Texas. They believe genuinely, like it's not a bit, they unironically believe if Texas were to secede from the Union, they'd be just fine as their own country.
So I've always said this with Texas people and in my fraternity and in classes, like a lot of Auburn students are from Texas. And like I had a lot of friends that are from Texas during my time, in school at Auburn. And I always said that Texas people, they play a game that nobody else is playing as far as like the state pride thing.
Yeah.
Like nobody from Vermont is like, I'm better than you because I'm from Vermont.
Yeah, because I happen to be born in this state.
Yeah, or my parents chose to like do life here. So here's where I was, the last 15 years of my life. Nobody from like you meet somebody from Kansas, like, oh, I'm from Kansas. Like, okay, cool, nice. When you meet somebody from Texas, like, oh, okay, like this is a big part of who you are. Now, in the last few years, though, there is another state that has started playing this game. And I think it's super interesting.
Really?
Tennessee has started playing this game to some extent.
Which is interesting because they don't have the oil. They don't have the coast. Like they don't have, Texas doesn't have a lot of coastline, but anyway, they don't.
I think Tennessee is number 2 as far as like state pride, like where I'm from is a big part of who I am type thing.
Yeah.
From a state standpoint, I think it's Texas 1, Tennessee 2.
Okay. Well, hey, at least Tennessee's top 2 and something.
Let us know in the comments down below.
Yeah, this is an issue because I'm already bracing for the Texas, but like Austin is the most Texas-y Texas city that I've ever been to.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like they're the most Texas-y.
I have like no experience in Texas. Like I did like a retreat thing in Texas through church once, but like we didn't leave the retreat area. So like that could have been anywhere,
Yeah.
And then media days last year at Dallas. But we did all the stuff that SEC, the SEC did for us. Like we didn't really branch out a ton. So, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed Dallas where we went.
Sure.
But that it could have been any other like really hot city,
Been to Dallas, Houston, College Station, Corpus Christi in Texas. I would pick all of them
over
Austin.
Got it.
There's a little, I'm sorry, Texas people. I apologize. There's a little pretentiousness from the city of Austin.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And you're not even saying fan base or anything like that. You're just saying from the people of Austin.
No, listen, the only experience I have in Austin with Texas fans was at last night's baseball game. And, they didn't really have a lot to cheer about until Cooper McMurray nearly decapitated a guy. And he caught the ball, and that kind of woke the crowd up, and then they started scoring runs, and they took a lead late, and they won the game, and they were into it. It was a good crowd, but that's it. I mean, they were a crowd. They were a college crowd,
Okay. Got it.
So there you go. It's been a busy week. There's a lot to catch up on. This show brought to you by mybookie.ag. They'll double your deposit bonus right now up to $1,000 when you use promo code BARN, BARN. There you go. Double that deposit bonus up to $1,000 plus, not double, I'm sorry, a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. Let's get that right. 50%. I'm a little out of practice. 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000 plus a $10 casino chip. Use promo code BARN. Portal talk.
Yeah, good. Yep.
It's just rampant this week. Everybody's either freaking out about who's leaving, or they're excited about who's coming in, or they're not excited about who's coming in, or they're not all that freaked out about who's leaving. What's been the biggest story? What's the most interesting addition or subtraction or exit of the week so far?
It's got to be Chad Baker-Mazara entering the portal. I mean, just because of pretty polarizing athlete, pretty polarizing character. I think it makes sense. I think it makes sense from both sides. Did I see it coming? Not really. I mean, he played the NIL game last year, and Auburn gave him what he wanted. It clearly worked out. Auburn went to the Final Four. They had a really good roster. Sounds like he tried to do it again, and they weren't willing to do that, especially with other guys that are in the portal that are similar to Chad, that are just as good, if not better, offensively, and you don't have to worry about them elbowing anyone. Like, I think all that's part of it.
Yeah.
So
that's I
mean, how many times do we see like somebody get chippy with Chad? And we're like, please don't. No, just walk away. Just walk away. So I'm not going to miss that. But like, Chad had some incredible moments. Chad was a dynamic part of a very dynamic team. So like, I'm never going to like get on here and bash Chad Baker-Mazara, because he was really fun to watch at Auburn for 2 years. And I hope he doesn't go to another team in the SEC, because I don't want to play against him, because I think he's a good player. But I would say that. And then, I mean, I'm a huge fan of Keyshawn Hall. I know that was technically last week. I don't know if we've talked since then, but you know, the guy who led the Big 12 in points per game from UCF, like, you take that, that, and then positional versatility. That seems to be something that Bruce Pearl is valuing on last year's squad, this year's upcoming squad. So the guy who could, I mean, defensively go 2 through 4, maybe 2 through 5, depending on, you know, the size of the opposing center defensively. And that's exactly what you want to see.
Yeah. Yeah. And they've added they added the big 6'11" guy from Birmingham who started out at Mississippi State, Keyshawn Murphy. They add the big 7-foot JUCO. They add the Texas Tech guard. I mean, they've added a lot this week. And they've added a lot of guys with, I think, some defensive acumen too.
They're long, they're physical, they're experienced. They check a lot of boxes, every single one of them.
Yeah, except for the JUCO guy. Now,
he's JUCO's kind of the outlier. But that pickup felt very much of we're okay waiting on you to come on.
Yeah. You've got enough raw talent and enough raw ability that we'll mold what we can and get what we can short term and long term.
Yeah. Can you give us 10 minutes a game? Yeah. Maybe this upcoming year.
Block a couple shots.
Yeah, because I don't think Auburn's done it the forward and center position. I think there's going to be one more. And so, can you come in? Let's see how quickly you adjust to this level of basketball, because it's as high as it gets until you go professional in this league. And then I think after he gets his feet set, maybe gains a little bit more weight, adjust, and just, I mean, essentially just plays basketball more. He hasn't played basketball for very long.
Right.
To me, he seems like a future pickup as well as like a depth piece for this year.
I saw this note come across a couple hours ago that Florida's Denzel Aberdeen is headed to the portal. And it's a similar conversation to the one with Chad, to kind of circle back to this.
Okay.
Because some of the reaction from Florida people are like, wait a minute, he was going to start next year. He was going to be a major player. They just won the SEC tournament championship and the NCAA tournament championship. Like, what's he doing?
Yeah.
And it's just such an interesting world to me. And we talk about it all the time, Zach. People make portal decisions for very different reasons.
100%.
JP Pegues, like KD Johnson left last year, I think because he wanted to play more. He wanted to start. He wanted to play more. I think that was a big factor in it. May not have been the only, but it's hard to argue that he didn't play more this year than George Mason. JP Pegues applying for a waiver and transferring. He wants to play somewhere. He didn't play this year.
Right.
Other guys seem like money decisions. And I like talking portal stuff with you because I like your perspective on this. Here's something, though, that I don't think people have talked about when the players right now have or seem to have so much leverage. At what point are we going to start talking about the school's value proposition for that player's name, image, and likeness? Okay.
I think we're a ways away from that.
But we shouldn't be.
I agree.
We're a ways away because we swung so far over to that side in saying the players have no leverage, so let's give them all the leverage.
Well, I don't think we've swung. I think we're still swinging that direction. There are guys in the portal that, I mean, based on people that would know that I've talked to, and this isn't stuff that's like being reported or what, but there are people that I feel confident with what my sources have told me that are making as much or more than Janai Broome that aren't like did last year at Auburn.
Yeah.
And they're playing for teams that are nowhere near a championship, and they're nowhere near as talented or good or as impactful as Janai Broome.
Yeah.
And we're seeing this with football too, to some extent, but the number that the top schools in the NIL game are choosing to spend, like, it's still going up.
Yeah.
And so your random role player is making a ton. I mean, the same way with football. I mean, when NIL first started, everybody freaked out when Nick Saban talked about how Bryce Young's got, $1 million NIL deal or whatever. And now it's like if Bryce Young would have played now, it'd be like, he only has $1 million. Like,
right.
What?
Right.
So I think we're still swinging in that direction. I don't think we're fully there.
It's incredible. And I don't know, I'm trying to fit this bigger thought into a smaller, like the box of this conversation. But so for these guys, and that's why when you ask the question, well, how much is it worth to have a quarterback like fill in the blank? Mm-hmm. But you can't just ask that question in a vacuum. You can't just say, well, if I have this quarterback, he's worth $5 million. Well, sure, he might be. Mm-hmm. But if your quarterback, it's just like an NFL roster. If your quarterback is getting X, well, now your best rush end should get what? What percentage of X is that position worth? Yeah. And what's the second or third? You got backup offensive linemen leaving six-figure deals on the table because they think they should get more. We're talking about backup linemen, not starters, backups.
Backup offensive linemen leaving six-figure deals on the table. Interesting.
Yeah. Wanting more, saying this isn't enough. I should be valued higher than this. Well, okay, but you're a backup offensive lineman. You're backup safety. You're a backup corner. You're a backup. And
I think I know what you're referring to. But so, like, some of the value is not always money. And once again, like, there's a million reasons why somebody might enter the portal. And some of these kids need money. Some of them are more like money driven than others. 100%. Yeah. They all want more. Most of them want more. I mean, I can't imagine a situation where you wouldn't. But some of it, though, is like, yes, we'll give you more money. But if I'm on the other end of this and I'm the player, and it's like, but you've shown me that I'm not a key piece of the future of this program. So it's like the more money is great. But if all these guys who are about to leave next year, that got a year left of eligibility, for example, on this hypothetical situation that I think you're talking about, then I think the next thing is like, okay, well, shouldn't you want me? If I'm a backup who's projected to be a starter next year, why aren't you fighting to keep me? Oh, maybe I'm not in this standing that you think I am.
Yeah.
And so, like, while some people might leave deals on the table, like, I do think the value is more than that.
But how do you measure that value other than money? And you can't just always ramp everybody up. That's my point. If you say, show me you want me by paying me 30% more than what I've already agreed to.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, well, if I do that for you, now I've got to do that for the other 7 backup offensive linemen that I have that have comparable deals.
And that's the trickiest thing, is because if you're a portal guy, you've never played a snap for the university and you're making more in most situations, then pretty much everybody in that room there is in a similar situation. So
correct. And your value
sticky.
and your value is dictated in large degree by the school you're currently practicing for and representing.
Yeah.
Because a backup offensive lineman at Auburn or Tennessee or Florida or LSU, a nameless backup offensive lineman at any of those places has more name, image, and likeness value than a backup offensive lineman at Iowa State or Rice or
a starting offensive lineman.
Middle Tennessee State.
At Rice or Middle Tennessee State. You could start at some of those schools and you've got more cachet as a backup at one of these SEC programs. Sure.
But even if there's no name involved, you just say, backup, name the position at this school. School. My point in all this is that the school is adding value to a player's brand. Travis Hunter has more value even at Colorado than he did at Jackson State.
But we see this in the marketplace all the time too, though, Brad. Like I got offered a board op job for a PM drive show, a radio show several years ago at it was a top 10 market, maybe even top 5 market. But like the pay was about the same. It was in a city, so I was gonna have to, the dollar wouldn't go as far, right?
Yeah.
And I would have been like the 20th guy at that radio station, right? I get another offer to run a radio station in an SEC school. And like, if my kid hadn't have just been born a few weeks prior, like I probably would have taken it because I was going to be the guy, not as big of a market at all, but it's a chance to be the guy. And the money is all about the same in this situation. So like, I think we see that too, though, where like, if you go to a rated market or a top market, and you're able to attach yourself to those call letters, that's cool and all. Or I could like be the guy.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And I'm sure that happens with other industries too. That's just the one that I've worked in, most of my professional career. So I think we see that in other industries as well.
Yeah. But in a lot of other industries, nobody is saying, why don't you just pay them more? Why don't you just pay more?
Yeah.
Because that's the very easy response. But that's not
I'll give you that.
We talk about sustainability, and I kind of cringe at that word sometime because players are being paid now. They've been paid a whole lot of money, and college fandom hasn't really dropped off at all, which surprises me. I thought it would. I thought people would not care to watch guys who make 6 figures, and this other guy works a 40-hour job, and he's got a wife and 2 kids and makes half that. I didn't think people would still be fired up as they are.
I mean, more people watch the NFL than college. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a different product, though. So what?
I get it.
But
that's fair.
My point is that it hasn't fallen off. But sustainability within these programs, it's not. You can't just pay everybody more to show them that you value them in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to correct over time. And, maybe the NCAA will step in and do something. Maybe the conferences will do something. Maybe our government will do something. I don't know. But if they don't, I do think the market will correct itself.
It is coming, and that could be an answer to why you're seeing some of these grabs. And that's what they are in large, a lot of times.
Rich people that are funding a lot of this, they're not in the business of like making bad investments. That's why they have more money than all of us.
Sure.
And over time, like if you give and give and give at that level, there's only one happy donor base at the end of the season. It's the one who wins the national championship.
Sure.
And you're just not going to do that for forever. I don't think. I think a lot of these folks is like, well, I'm giving you, $2 million towards your quarterback every year or towards whatever every year. And like, you're not like, it's not really doing anything. Like what's the value? I think that's how it's going to correct over time.
Yeah, maybe so. I do think there's a very practical way it's coming because there's this Deloitte firm that's going to judge the value of NIL deals, and you can't just give a guy $50,000 for showing up and signing autographs for an hour because they'll judge a fair market value of NIL deals. in addition to the revenue sharing that will happen. So
it's also arbitrary, but they can find a way to make it not.
Yeah.
Whatever. I also think a lot of this goes away if you have contracts.
100%. Yes.
And if you could have performance-based NIL deals, I think a lot of this goes away because the power is in the hands of the player. And I don't disagree with that. I'm okay with the balance, or I'm okay with the idea of giving the players more power, maybe even more power than the coaching staffs. I go back and forth on that, but they have too much. And so to me, there's no contract length. And so anytime it opens, like everybody on your roster is a free agent. Like that's crazy. Like you can't do that. Like nobody else in the world in any industry is doing that. You can't do that. So
no.
I think that is part of it too, but we've got to wait for, laws to change for in order for that to be the next step.
Like in our industry too, you have non-competes. Can you imagine non-compete clauses in these contracts? You can't go to another SEC school. You can't go to another school in the Southeast. You can't go.
I think that's coming.
Yeah.
I think that's the next step. I don't know if it comes in 2 years or 5 years or whatever, but I do think that is how that, and I just think overall market correction is gonna fix itself too.
You got any guesses on Auburn football's next portal edition?
I mean, it sounds like they're hosting some defensive linemen today. I think I saw that somewhere. So
Florida A&M and Charlotte, I think.
Charlotte, yes, those are the two I was referring to. So I mean, I think that checks the boxes for potential defensive line depth. I would love for them to get a grad transfer linebacker, or a guy with 1 year left of eligibility, and I'd love for them to get a pass rusher with 2 years left of eligibility. And I mean, Hugh Freeze after A-Day made it sound like he wasn't too interested in adding too much on the offensive side of the roster.
Yeah, so, he sounded very comfortable with his offense. Yeah,
which makes sense. And there's some chatter about an offensive line situation. I'm like, I'd rather just focus on keeping the guys you've got because I think it's a decent group.
I agree. How fun is that to say? By the way,
it's crazy.
How does that feel?
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And maybe you get a senior safety, just because they're so young back there. Like maybe that helps you in the in meetings and stuff. I don't know. Like I wonder what that sales pitch is like, because they're probably not going to play, and if they do, it wouldn't be as much as they could in other places. So like if Auburn were to go out and add Jaron Thompson again, because that's what we're talking about, a guy with 1 year left of eligibility,
right? That
could be a leader and pick up plays quickly and, help raise these younger guys. Like, I don't know how much Jaron Thompson, I think he plays.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's as good as these younger guys. So I don't know what that sales pitch is.
One of the other things Hugh Freeze talked about after A-Day, he was asked about whether or not they were going to go get another quarterback. And he framed it as it's kind of a tough sales pitch to give to somebody else. And you also have to manage your roster. He didn't come out and just overtly say from an NIL perspective, but if you're paying two guys, you can't pay quarterback money to four quarterbacks.
Yeah, or if it's a third, your third, I guess it'd be your fourth string, because Ashton, he's not here yet. But would you rather have a decent fourth string quarterback, or I imagine that would be close to like a potential linebacker.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of variables in that, but I'd rather have that money go towards a guy who's going to play, especially. There's all it's all about building for the future too. And I think this coaching staff's done a good job of balancing that, but somewhere in the back of their mind, they've got to know they have to win this year. They have to. Yeah. We can talk about the future. We can talk about these young guys, but they've got to win this year.
I don't think you're going to hear the word future as much.
I don't think you can.
No, in the months ahead. And I also don't think, because of what you mentioned just a minute ago, because the portal opens twice a year.
Yeah.
And every year, because there's nothing binding guys to more than 1 year
right
on your team or in your organization, so to speak. You're building in free agency twice a year. So gone, and a Darren Scott is a perfect example of that on the basketball side. I know you talked a little bit about this on your other show today, but building for the future, there ain't no guarantee that a guy's going to be there in the future.
No. And if you bring guys in, you have to make it worth it for them, which is what makes the AD Scott thing curious. I wish I knew more about that situation, and I'm hesitant to really talk about it because it is a little puzzling to me. So like, I'm clearly missing a detail, so I don't want to talk about it a ton. But like, for instance, like with the pass rusher, like I think Auburn needs to get another guy that has 2 years left of eligibility because they've seen the track record of that already once. But also like when J-Mac transferred in, he was fine. But that next year, we talked to him in the offseason and, media availability. And he's like, I'm preparing for the NFL. It's like, cool. Yeah. Good for you. Good for you. And then same with, it's a similar story with Keyron. Yeah. But that second year of them coming back, like you gave them value. It's like, all right, here are the keys for you to be an NFL draft pick. And we'll see what happens with J-Mac. We'll see. Talked to a lot of folks in Mobile that liked them. So we'll certainly see what happens with that. But I guess like, is the opportunity that Auburn basketball gave AD Scott, like, was it not good enough? Like that doesn't make sense to me. Or
did they tell him, you know what, you probably aren't going to play as much next year? Yeah.
Which seems more likely.
Yeah.
Pure speculation. It's just so puzzling. Like why? But then if Auburn was in the situation to where they said, okay, like we don't need you, we need the roster spot. Surely they would have seen that coming and they would have played him because Auburn could have used another center at certain points last year. So neither side of it, like there's something I'm missing in this. Because neither side makes sense.
Yeah, I'm fascinated to see how much the freshmen play next basketball season because we saw this year's roster construct. Yeah. And Tahad Pettiford, I mean, it is far and away the exception rather than the rule.
Right.
To the last few seasons of very highly touted freshmen.
Yeah.
Within the Auburn basketball program. This team was put together this year. Now you needed Tahad. You don't win as many games as you won without Tahad, including some NCAA tournament games.
Sure.
But the team was constructed with upperclassmen and transfers. Mm-hmm. The majority of this team is upperclassmen and transfers. I just wonder if that's the blueprint going forward for Bruce and the staff is not going to be very fresh. In other words, we're not really building for several years at a time. Now, Dylan Cardwell, Chris Moore, Janai Broom was in his third year, but those are all guys who, they played a fair amount their first year. They didn't bring them in to sit them for a year or two.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why the JUCO thing's very interesting too.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. I think Pearl and the staff have access to more resources than most programs.
I agree.
And so that leads me to think that portal may be the way they choose to go.
Yeah.
I don't know. So, I mean, it's so interesting how much everything's changed in the last few years. I mean, every offseason is like a little different just because the game and the strategy evolves. It's fun.
I predict we're going to have a lot of changes before our next show. I predict we've got a lot of interesting things that we'll be talking about on the next Village Vice.
Yes, I think there will be more new Auburn Tigers when we record Monday or Tuesday. Yes.
I agree. I'm with you.
All right. Do you call the games in Texas with cowboy boots and a cowboy hat?
No, I do not.
All right.
But we learned that the CTO of a pretty well-known boot making company is an Auburn graduate. So
was it Tecovas?
Yes.
Auburn grad?
Yeah. Chief Technology Officer.
How about that?
Yeah.
The only pair of boots I have are Tecovas.
Well, there you go. You got a high quality boot, my friend. I do not own any boots. I do not own a cowboy hat.
Handcrafted, baby. Yeah. Handcrafted.
I do have some Voodoo donuts though from here in Austin that I may crack into after we're finished.
They pretty good?
I don't know.
Cracked into them yet?
No, I'm about to find out.
Can you reach one?
The box is holding up the computer.
Get one. Get one out.
Huh?
Let's watch it. Get one out.
No, we're not gonna watch it.
Yeah. Let's eat one on camera.
No.
No chance?
No, I don't want to be obscene here, Zach. This is a family show. Look how much darker the room has gotten just since we started having this conversation.
Yeah, that was a bad call on my part. That does it for today's show. Take it away, partner.
Hey, thanks for watching. Thanks for commenting and subscribing. Remember, until next time, everyone has vices. Yes. Make sure Village Vice is one of yours.